News First, Newsline Prime with Araz Shaukat Ali.
Very good evening and welcome to Newsline Prime. Of course, I'm Sharlan Benedict. I'll be sitting in for your usual host, Faraz Shaukat Ali, as he is slightly under the weather. Before we get into introducing our guest and getting to know him, today was a special day. The President made 5 very special appointments. The governors of 5 districts were appointed. Of course, going into detail, Azad Sali, President's Council Maitri Gunaratna, Sarathe Kanayaka, Peshula Jayaratna and MLM Hizbullah were appointed as governors of various districts. Let's take a look at some of the views expressed by a few of these governors, namely Azad Sali and President's Council Maitri Gunaratna. Azad Sali was appointed as the governor of the Western Province, and President's Council Maitri Gunaratna was appointed as the governor of the Central Province. Let's have a look to some of the views that they expressed to us.
Let me first and foremost thank His Excellency the President for having the confidence in me, because about 5 or 6 days ago he called me from Thailand and requested me to take over the Eastern Province. But and unfortunately today in the afternoon he had a change of mind and he decided to take me. He decided to take me as the governor of the Western Province. So which I very happily agreed, and we have a lot to do for the people of the Western Province. First and foremost, let me think, my future plans could be first education, road discipline. You can see that as a major issue that is in Colombo and the Western Province, and think about that. And also education is my second task, and also bring about good governance, because that is the aim of Maitri policies and becoming the president of this country. And but we could not see that in the last 4 years. So as a governor, I think I have a big role to play, getting along with all the the provincial council and the local authorities, bring them together, bring discipline into that, and also ensure that work is being done and no hanky-panky. Everybody will have to work, that we will be having a big schedule, and I will also be calling upon a 100-day program which we will decide soon, and what are the most important things to be done, because the people of this country want a change. People of this country want to see a change. So I think I can make it. I will definitely see, and I will definitely make Western Province a place for other councils to look at and follow our module. This is my target. Very, very happy, because this is the economic capital, right? I have to be very happy, and being a Colombo-based person and being the governor of Colombo, I think I'm the most happiest person. This is, I think the first governor was Bakir Maka. Second was Muslim governor Alawi Maulana. Third, it's me. So I'm so happy and really grateful for the President for having nominated me for this high position. Yeah, Sarathe Kanayaka was the Chief Minister when I was in the Central Provincial Council. Then Maitri Gunaratna and me, we have been very close friends for a long time. Peshula is a very close confidant of the President. And I think all these guys will really perform. And most of the councils are not there today. You don't have 6 councils sitting. So a big task and big responsibility lies with the governor. So governor has to play a big role. So I think that everybody will do. And also becoming the election year. This is because the provincial council elections have to be held, then you have the parliamentary elections to be held, then you have the presidential election to be held. So you have a big task ahead of all of this. My affiliation with the UNP, I joined the UNP in 1997 and contested the Colombo Municipal Council, where I became the 3rd. And then in 2001, when I contested, I became the 2nd and became the Deputy Mayor of Colombo. 2006, I became again the 2nd with a very thumping majority in Colombo, and the 3-wheel driver went and sat on my chair. So that was the 3rd time. And the 4th time when I was elected, I contested under the UPFA, because we were thrown out of the UNP only because we said for the party that whenever there is a presidential election, the presidential candidate would be from the UNP. And the UNP leader has been the candidate. Since Mr. Wickremesinghe feared contesting Mahinda Rajapaksa, he brought in Mr. Fonseca. And when he brought in Mr. Fonseca, I was the first to oppose him. And then Johnston and Indika Bandaranaike voted with me, and then when we all three of us were thrown out of the UNP. And that is the time that I had to contest with Mahinda Rajapaksa. And then we had the Dambula incident where I had to tender my resignation from the council. And then Mr. Wickremesinghe called me and said that Kandy, they are so weak and they had only 4 seats in the provincial council, and wanted me to increase the seats. So I did my best within a very short period of time, scoring the highest amount, 57,500, and becoming number 1 in the Kandy district. And I was performing well with my people. I did everything. Even now, I still continue wherever I have contested in the Eastern Province, the Batticaloa district, I still look after my people. In the Kandy district also, I still look after my people. Every year, my normal routine of work, my foundation does a lot of work with them. We have built houses, we have built toilets. All these things are still continuing, though I am not there. And I will still continue to support all these areas. And then when I got that amount, and then the second in the UNP gets only 40,000, 17,500 less than me. After which the general election was there, and the UNP told me, don't contest, we need you island-wide, so you have to do the full campaign, and they gave me the campaign also. I was traveling, especially Dayagamage's victory, I must make the claim, it's my victory, because the Muslim voted for Dayagamage. So we did all that, and they gave me a letter saying that you will be nominated in the national list. That was the letter they gave me, but they did not honor that. Malik and Ranil did not honor that. So that was done. And before that also Gamini Vijayasekara, when Dr. Gamini Vijayasekara was the secretary of the UNP, D.B. Vijayatunga, President D.B. Vijayatunga wrote to him and told him that the first vacancy in the Western Provincial Council in the year 1994 will be given to me, and a letter was given. So I have 2 letters in hand which the UNP has given me, and they have not fulfilled their promise. So UNP is a party which cannot keep up to promise. Not only me, no, you can see all the party leaders saying that, all the MPs who say that, but he doesn't look after us. That has been word there. Now you saw even the Tamil party alliance that formed, and who was the former education minister, Radhakrishnan, is also accusing that Ranil did not keep up to his promise. So most of the MPs, the backbenchers are all saying this. So that's a habit of the UNP. So, and not asking for anything is my way. I never questioned Mr. Wickremesinghe or Malik as to why you gave me the letter, why you didn't honor your promise. Because I don't run behind position. I always maintain that the position come behind me, and I don't run behind position. So touch wood, thank God for that. So I was invited by the President to take over, which I never asked, up to being a very close friend of the President, going everywhere with the President, never asked for any position. But I am very, very grateful and thankful. He nominated me as the mayoral candidate in the last municipal council election, and today, what municipal council, he has made me the governor of the Western Province, which is the most prestigious position that a man can hold. So I am very thankful and very happy, and thank His Excellency the President for this gesture. Definitely, Western Provincial Council will be a module for the councils to follow.
His Excellency the President, Honorable Maithripala Sirisena, has appointed me as the governor of the Central Province. Whilst appointing me as the governor, His Excellency stated to me that this is the main citadel of the Buddhist, where the Dalada Maligava is situated. One of the main requests he made was to work with all 3 communities and try to bring them together. Since I have the ability to speak all 3 languages spoken in this country, he had thought it fit that I would be the best person to put to the Central Province. There is the Indian Tamil workers whom have lived a long time in my life in those provinces, in those areas, and in the Muslims whom have worked and appeared and helped to a great extent, and then the Sinhalese. So I feel there is a huge challenge before me. When the provincial council has been dissolved, there is no provincial council. All powers and functions have come upon the governor. So it is the governor who will have to run the province, and I am the representative of the president of the country. So therefore, it is my duty to see that this province will be made beautiful. And I assure that I will do everything within my strength to assure that will be one of the best provinces in the country in my short period. Furthermore, I was appointed as chairman of Lanka Coal Company. I was able to turn it around. I was able to save billions of rupees and dollars for the country. Thereafter, I was appointed as chairman of the Lanka Mineral Sands. I was able to transform that place within 6 months and saved almost ₹1 billion within 4 months. It was a great challenge, which I have done on behalf of the people of this country. And I will not hesitate to do everything within my strength to ensure that I serve the people of this country, especially the people of the Central Province, to the best of my ability, and in order to keep the trust placed on me by His Excellency the President Maithripala Sirisena. Thank you.
So those were the views expressed by the newly appointed governors Azad Sali and President's Counsel Maitri Gunaratne. Now getting on to introducing our guest for this evening. A very popular figure, you would remember if you... he's Lacille de Silva, a former Director of Administrations in Parliament and also former Secretary of the Press Effect. Lacille de Silva, very good evening and welcome to the show. Mr. Lacille de Silva, we've started off a new year with some massive changes. We saw a shake-up inside the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. We saw newly appointed governors being sworn in before the President today. What do you think these new leaders of our country, or the newly appointed people who are holding new office, should focus on in this new year?
Yeah, now everybody says I was appointed and I have a task and all that, but unfortunately when you look back into the history for the last 70 years or so, I mean, I just can't imagine whether they have done their job, because people have eventually carried the burden. They have paid them, they have looked after them. Look at the big picture, right? Now, let me say it this way. All the comforts, all the facilities afforded to the people, to the politicians and the public servants, right? Actually, what did they do in return for the benefit of the people? If we have a position, we have a duty to look after the masses, right? Actually, the duty should be done with dedication, you know, with commitment, and it's more than doing a service, the passion to take the country forward, the nation forward. If that could be done, that is what is expected, because people carry such a lot of big burdens, right?
Speaking about the burden that's put on the people due to public administration, the newly appointed parliament was, the newly appointed cabinet was sworn in recently at the end of last year, and there were attempts to further expand this cabinet. What do you see this attempt as?
I don't think that we should expand. You know, in the past, now comparatively, even bigger countries have about 15-20 cabinet ministers. Say, go to Australia, go to even India, right? Such a bigger, I mean, very much larger country with such a big population, right?
They have smaller cabinets.
They have a smaller cabinet. We have the Parliament, the provincial councils and the local government. Now see, go back to the local government. Now this government increased the composition in the sense the number...
Almost doubled it.
Doubled it, which is about 3,000, 3,400 or whatever. It was increased to 8,000, something like that. And we had forgotten that there's a bonus list about 700. So it's such a huge, you know, elected representatives. All that is unnecessary. Good to slim it down, bring it down.
Of course, speaking of accountability, transparency and the burden on the general public, you're watching Newsline Prime. We will be right back after this short commercial break.
News First, Newsline Prime with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Welcome back to Newsline Prime. We're in discussion with former Secretary of the Press Effect and former Director of Administration in Parliament, Lacille de Silva. Mr. Lacille de Silva, we were speaking about the burden being put on the general public. Speaking of which, one of the biggest burdens that the general public has to shoulder, not just now, but about 30 years from now as well, is the losses caused to the state by the central bank bond scam. Your views on this? First, starting off a statement.
All this is a terrible, disastrous, I would say, I think we should not encourage, or we should always see to it that all this is corrected. There is no accountability. Now go back, hedging deal, all kinds of things, right? Such a lot of money wasted. Now, in the case of bond scam, all what I personally think now recently, the two, Palisena, and again the other
Arjun Aloysius, they were released on bail,
out, right? And the judge was very, very correct. Since the biggest person who is
the chief suspect
has not been brought in, or it has not been possible to bring him in here. Why did that happen? How did that happen? It is very important for us to find out how these things have been sort of
carefully planned out.
Carefully planned out. It's a matter that people should go into, and people must always consider how all that could happen. It is so very unfortunate. There's so much, right? Due to impunity, there is no rule of law. The powers be, the authorities have taken the law into their hands, and they prevent probably even the arrest. I think this kind of thing should not happen.
But speaking of which, how did Arjun Mahendran leave Sri Lanka? He was in Sri Lanka when the time cases were filed against him. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe made a statement in Parliament saying that he is only going to Singapore to attend a wedding and that he will be right back. But
yeah, now if that is the case, the Prime Minister is totally responsible. Let me go back a little further. Now, this government was elected to power with a mandate. Right?
Fight against corruption.
Yeah, fighting against corruption. It is so very unfortunate. Now, I think it's relevant for me to mention the dates. 8th January they were elected. If I remember right, on the 20th, say on the 10th, Prime Minister was appointed. Then on the 23rd, Governor Central Bank was appointed. All that had come up in the bond commission, right? And the commission report, if I remember right, in the chapter 25 specifically says that the Prime Minister had rung up Arjun Mahendran in Dubai, and he was invited to come and take up appointment, right? So eventually, if I remember right, he was again appointed on the 23rd.
Yes.
Now, next month, in February, this took place. So he was brought in by Ranil Wickremesinghe, the Prime Minister, and as you very rightly said, he went out for a wedding. I wonder whether the wedding still
is going on
or whatever. So it is so very unfortunate. I think the problem is with the Prime Minister. He is answerable, and he should be also brought in and questioned if possible, because there's another story. Now, on the 20, I think chapter 26 specifically says
of the Bond Commission report.
Specifically says that this whole thing, there was a conflict of interest, there were all the issues where eventually Prime Minister was so very well aware. Unfortunately, all that will have to be taken up in courts.
I'm quoting the Bond Commission report when I read, it said, we are of the considered opinion that Mr. Mahendran is liable and responsible for this loss, and that this loss should be recovered from Mr. Mahendran. Now, the bond scam has already happened. Our country has already suffered a loss. Speaking about the recovery of this, can't the Attorney General file a case in the court against Arjun Mahendran and try him and convict him in his absence?
Even in when the audit bill was taken up, right? There was provision to recovery process, right? Surcharges and all that. I think there is provision in the laws where you could definitely take up and recover all the losses, because even the present government, when they were elected in January 2015, they specifically said the monies will be brought back. That is in regard to the previous regime. So naturally, it should be possible even to do that even with regard to Arjun Mahendran too, because that was an undertaking given by Ranil Wickremesinghe, the present president, all of them.
Speaking about rule of law and a complete disregard to rule of law on the part of our leaders, the people who are supposed to legislate for us, brings to mind a story that was reported yesterday. One policeman was sentenced to 8 years of rigorous imprisonment for obtaining a bribe of 3,000 rupees. Now, Arjun Mahendran has been considered by this commission, the commission that was appointed to investigate allegations of bribery and corruption, as responsible for these massive losses caused. How many years do you think these people should be sentenced to?
You know, there have been instances where, you know, for certain crimes, they were say sentenced for 200 years imprisonment and all that, right? I think, I don't know how many years they should be jailed, because, you know, the losses are so much, I mean, so big. It is eventually, I believe, I don't know, within the law, it must be possible, but actually, definitely, lifetime sentence is definitely a requirement.
And it's another sad state of affairs that people who held such high office in Sri Lanka are now fugitives from the law, running from the law of the very nation that they served in those various positions in. But this was not what was promised to us, was it?
Yeah. Now, if you go back to the system, now see, Ranil Wickremesinghe, the Prime Minister, brought him in. Right? There are other situations now that Constitution specifically says the secretaries are appointed by the President, right? And the ministers appoint the other senior top officials, right? This system has to be changed. Unfortunately, it was scrapped in 1972 when they introduced the 72 Constitution. They scrapped the Public Services Commission. I personally believe we have to definitely enforce rules, bring in the laws again to, you know, give more powers to the Public Services Commission. Now it's just a commission with a name board. It doesn't have all the powers. So naturally, you have to correct the whole system. Unless you do that, I think this kind of things could definitely happen even in the future. We have to consider.
Now, we had the Bond Commission report submitted. You were the secretary to the Press Effect. What happened to that report?
This is the biggest problem. I think there were quite a number of issues that we had taken up. Finally, you know, in the form of reports, all that was tabled, sent to the President. I think President also must definitely look at all these issues seriously, right? Even the bond scam, the report was submitted. There were other laws that was to be amended in the sense with regard to this, you know, report, commission evidence to be taken up in courts and all that. I think it's high time, or at least we are now overdue, I would say. You know, it is better if we can speed up, because there is election coming in. Now the President also specifically said that within this 1 year, he will have to, you know, speed up all that. But I think without rhetoric, right, they must definitely see to it that all this is done, because it is public money, they have wasted and they have robbed. It is so very unfortunate. People are suffering, and as you very rightly said, for another 30 years ahead, even the unborn will have to be
paying this debt.
Yeah.
The President, of course, has taken a strong stance against corruption, but he seems to be surrounded by, he seems to be stuck in a den of thieves who just won't allow him to.
Yeah, but you know, going into investigations and dealing with corruption is not an easy task. You have to be very systematic, and you have to be very, very cautious. If you could do that, definitely you can definitely do that. Now see, how can that happen in Pakistan, right? Imran Khan, his predecessor, there's accountability taking place. Why we can't do that here? It is so very unfortunate, because at the top, they should set the example. If the President wants it, I know he can definitely do that. He should not just, you know, say it that way. He should see that it is enforced.
Definitely. We are discussing about the accountability and the current situation in the country with the dawn of the new year. You're watching Newsline Prime. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short commercial break. Welcome back. You're watching Newsline Prime. We're in discussion with Lacille de Silva. Mr. Lacille de Silva, 2019 is an election year. We have provincial council elections due. We have calls for a presidential election. We have calls for a general election. We don't know which will come first, but 2019 is slated to be an election year. When it comes towards election, judging from the experiences that Sri Lankans have had in the past, we see a lot of election handouts being given, subsidies being given to the general public. The central bank governor recently made a statement saying that subsidies or election handouts, as they are popularly known, would be very detrimental to the economy of Sri Lanka. Do you think our politicians will consider this and not repeat the same mistakes of the past this time around?
No, basically, actually, I support the welfare state because, you know, it's a poor country and people have been let down so badly. Probably, I believe, you know, our priorities are mixed up. Now, where do they spend all that money?
But the problem is not with providing subsidies. They provide subsidies just before an election, very close to an election, and right after the election, they slap the tax back on the general public.
No, you have to elect good leaders, ethical leaders, you know, who feel for the people. Unfortunately, it is not the case at the moment, right? They do all that in order to, I believe, to deceive the people, right? They buy their votes in that way, which should not be the case. Now, actually, it says a leader should feel all his citizens are his children. You have to think like that. It is a sin not to do it that way. And what do? They take all that for them to buy luxury cars, you know, to lead a luxury life. That's not what they should do. They have to look after everything. Now, even during the Britishers, right, before we got independence, we got free education, right?
Yes.
They spent so much of money. Why don't they spend all that money for education, transport, all that? Now, those are the requirements they should definitely concentrate, and they should develop all that without giving subsidies. They should have long-term plans to take the country forward, achieve economic growth and development. That's the way they should look at it, without trying to cheat people. This is all cheating. This is not the best way to do it. And as I said again, you know, I must say, it is sin to do it that way. They have done that for the last 70 years. It is high time for them to think it over and put the country on the track. You know what Lee Kuan Yew said, right? Unfortunately, we never had a man like Lee Kuan Yew in this country. They have all robbed this country and ultimately destroyed such a beautiful country. It is not a good thing to do it that way. Better for us to say, okay, don't get deceived. We want good leaders in the country. If possible, let us see whether we have better people who will come up for the next elections, since it is going to be
But the problem is, Mr. Lacille de Silva, we, the general public, keep on electing the same representatives, because even when you take at the massive scandals that have been happening in the very recent past, take the central bank bond scam, take the Sri Lanka-Singapore free trade agreement, the people who are being named in these scandals are the very same people.
Yeah, now I think even the president must take note of that. What did he do? He also appointed, you know, the people who were defeated, right? Shouldn't do that. We should honor what we give, I mean, the promises, right? Now, this is all these
UNP backbench MPs have come forward and said that they do not want people who have come through the national list to be given ministerial portfolios. Do you believe this to be a fair demand?
Actually, that again, you know, national list, right? All that is a farce. It was introduced to bring in people with...
Do you believe like people like Malik Samaravikrama are suitable to be elected to parliament through the national list?
In my view, it's a conflict of interest. Businessmen should never be allowed in parliament, in the sense in positions of authority, where like ministers and all that. That is the biggest problem in this country, right? There's such a big problem.
What do you feel about what they have done during this time period that they've been in parliament?
It's terrible. It's terrible. All what they have done is terrible. So naturally, people will have to come up and say, okay, enough is enough. Unfortunately, I think the message has gone, because people saw what was happening in the parliament. So it is time for people to think it even better, if possible, to ensure that you don't elect the wrong people. But my question is, you know, the party leaders must take precautions not to nominate such people. They repeatedly do that, and people have no choice. They have to elect somebody from the list. So it is basically the party leaders who have ruined this country in that way, by sending and nominating the wrong type of people. You can't blame the people. They are innocent, right? You have a list of names.
And you vote for someone.
Yeah, you have to select somebody from that list.
Mr. Lacille de Silva, I think you have left us with a very important statement. That is, enough is enough. 2019, as I said before, is an election year. You, the general public, will be given the opportunity to select your leaders. And this time, think and vote right. Select clean politicians for our parliament to lead us and to usher us in a new, prosperous era, this year at least. Thank you very much, Mr. Lacille de Silva, for joining us on Newsline Prime this evening. Thank you very much to our viewers out there. Take care and God bless. Until next time, I'm Sharlan Benedict for the Newsfirst.